large language models have had a good run around. There has been a significant hype over the technology, and the amount of chatter in the space is very high. Given the time that ChatGPT was launched, and when we look at now, there has been a lot of interesting debates, conversations around how to leverage large language models. And I've talked a lot about how to build systems using it in my previous videos. If you have not watched, please do watch some of my previous videos. I do quality stuff on large language models, software architecture, building AI systems, and pretty much sharing my entire 10-12 years of IT experience, which is largely in building systems. Coming back to the point, LLMs are really useful. There are a lot of companies and we are trying to use them for a variety of different use cases. They are not a drop-in replacement for traditional AI where you build purpose-built AI models. However, there is a lot of discussions and implementations, proof of concepts, prototypes that you can see where people have optimized their chatbots, optimized their workflow, code generation, and a lot of productivity stuff, right? While LLMs are doing great, there are some very well defined limitations. In fact, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, Andre Karpathy, he believes that he actually created a term called jagged intelligence. And let's look at some of the limitations through his lens and also a couple of other sources, and let's talk about how and what can we do to solve them, right? These limitations are not very hard limitations. Yes, they will have thresholds, but let's take a look at it, what it is. So Andre gave an example and said that chatbot to compare two numbers, like what's bigger, 9.11 or 9.9, and I tried this myself. It's really sometimes confusing to see this. It gives 9.11 is bigger. Now it gives you some out of the whack explanation, which is really stupid, right? And then there's a lot of memes around that, hey, this is the AGI. So there's another interesting term that's being thrown, that while they are, advanced model can get silver medal in a math Olympiad, they are really intelligently dumb. So they are failing to answer a simple question. Now, while this inconsistency might be baffling, the point to understand is the training data distribution plays a key role in it. And there's a very interesting line, like what happens, as Karpathy has pointed out, that most of the training data in the last post-training stage are of the form question authoritative sounding solution, where the solutions are written by human beings. The LLMs just imitate the form style of that training data. Now this might sound concerning, that you are creating some questions, you have some questions, human beings are keying in those answers, and then you are feeding an LLM and it's memorizing, and at best making it. So it's like a AI charlatan. Now what's the solution? There are quite a few of them, but let's look at a little bit more problems in a more structured way. So MIT published last year a simple paper, or this is more like a white paper or something, where they have talked about few limitations, and these few limitations are essentially four in nature. So the ability of, or the inability of, an LLM to do limitations on reasoning, and so they are not great at reasoning. However, we'll talk about how to improve on all of this. Second, they have limitations of knowledge or expertise. Third, they have limitation of understanding, and fourth, they have limitation of planning and execution. Now, the first problem, limitation of reasoning, is often solved or approached by prompts. You improve the quality of prompts and you get, or try to make the LLM better at reasoning. That's the general route that we take. Limitations of knowledge or expertise. This is mostly solved so far using RAG or RAFT and fine-tuning kind of conversation. But LLM responses are inherently inconsistent if you bring in your enterprise data. So they don't have your knowledge base at all. It obviously has a lack of understanding, because at the end of the day, it's a pre-trained model. It doesn't know everything. It's basically aware of things or relationships within the training sphere. Now, yes, when you see the quality of code produced, yes, when you see the quality of chat you do get an interesting feeling. But the point is that when you go and build systems, you need to be aware of these limitations. And finally, limitations of planning and execution. Interestingly, we are using agents to do all of this planning and limitation. Again, all of this is evolving. There's something like an auto GPT, there's agent, a bunch of frameworks are cooked up around. Now, while we are trying really hard to solve these challenges or shortcomings of LLMs by plugging in different solutions, some people believe that the so much attention that these LLMs are giving are counterproductive towards the journey of AGI. Again, I don't hold that view, plus I have zero interest in seeing an AGI work. I'm pretty happy with LLMs. So let's look at some solution. So what OpenAI has proposed is a prover verifier game, which is kind of a, I would say it's a training exercise where you are retaining some legibility of the data into the whole process of modeling. This is slightly different from RLHF, which is human-led reinforcement learning or human-driven reinforcement learning and things like that. But to talk a little bit more on these lines, there are a couple of more works. Like there are papers around computational complexity, scalable oversight. But these ideas like chain of thought are greatly useful to help improve and overcome these limitations. Then you can also get into explainability, causal and those kind of discussion. But again, those get pretty advanced. For most of these limitations, RAG architectures have worked good. If not, people try to do a hybrid of RAG and prompts and stuff like that. All right. So yeah, that's where we are headed. LLMs definitely have a lot of shortcomings. And as I was speaking in previous video of about Llama 3.1, if you have not seen it, please do watch it. There's still a race going on about the larger number of billions of parameter, like the Llama 3.1 is like 405 billion parameter. But again, they all are transformer architecture. Who knows, there might be a better architecture out there. Until then, let's live with LLMs. Thank you for watching. If you have liked my content, please hit subscribe, comment, join the membership. Topic और चाहिए, दूसरा topic चाहिए, interested in a certain themes, please put in the comments. Thank you. Until next video. Bye-bye.